Anyway, well, there's only so much fun we can have in a day, I guess. So shall we leave the parcel to one side for future use, and it's probably only got a pie in the middle anyway, and move on to...
Wigan joke, Klaxon.
So before we go on to Enemy of the World, there were just a few things I wanted to say about the last episode you did.
I am.
Oh,
which I thought was very...
Critique, Mike.
Yeah, I am.
Well, look, it was very funny, I thought, and it moved along at a good pace. But I was a little bit uncomfortable with the opening part you did about Moffat, Bill, and Chris Chibnall and the female doctor. So my thoughts are this. I mean, I'm prepared to give Chibnall a chance in the autumn.
Yes, I agree.
Mainly because I'm interested to see whether there's something new that he wants to do with the show that wouldn't work with a male doctor. Because I think that's the only reason we'd have for it. I think if it's just the time is right or it's inclusivity and makes for a worse program, then that doesn't really work for me. But if it serves a story or an arc or something like that, then okay, let's see what he's got.
Do you have an impression of Chibnall from his previous writings?
Well, not so much Doctor Who. I mean, most of his stuff is kind of a bit nondescript in Doctor Who, isn't it?
Oh,
yeah, it's a bit ordinary, I think.
There's the Silurian thing, which is kind of, straight Malcolm Hulke, really, with not much new.
It's a bit of a redo, isn't it?
Yeah. And then there's Dinosaurs on a Spaceship.
I thought that was okay.
42. Not 42.
Well, 42 was...
42.
Three, Power of Three.
I like the Power of Three, and I like Dinosaurs.
Power of Three's okay.
But the other two are a bit pedestrian. But
yeah.
Oh well.
So I mean, the other thing I was going to say is, I feared for you because it's quite hard to hold the high ground when you're middle-aged and white. And if you look at what happened to Peter Davison, he made a reasonable point about the Doctor being a good role model for young boys, but he got obliterated because he dared to shout out against the consensus. But of course, the other side of it is if you don't voice those opinions, then they just don't get heard.
In my book, there shouldn't be anything wrong with saying that you don't believe that politics should be at the forefront. And I did say I wasn't disagreeing with the nature of the politics or any of that, or I was making anything but a homophobic comment. I don't think any of us would be at all comfortable doing that. And I did say at the time that just airing the point that it shouldn't be in the plot, it shouldn't be just repeated. Someone re-articulating their sexuality isn't character development. It's just someone going around and repeating that they're gay, and it's never happened before, and it was done badly and unnaturally.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was that he was just repeating it because the thing was that it was almost as if Moffat had thought, well, the audience must have forgotten by now, so I'm going to have to keep reminding them. And it's like, well, you don't need to, because we do know what's going on and we do know the character, and the character was quite engaging, even though a lot of the things were fairly poorly written. I thought that the Pearl Mackie did a really good job. But overall, we didn't need to know every second episode her sexuality.
No.
And that's basically the point we were trying to make, I think.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So as for Moffat, I mean, I guess I'm broadly in favour, but I've got some misgivings.
Don't you come on this? Don't you come on this podcast, Milado, being all equitable and fair-minded about Stephen Moffat, because that simply will not wash. You can't go back and watch Series 8 or Series 10 and tell me that was a bravura piece of television writing, can you, Richard?
No.
Next you're going to be telling me that Let's Kill Hitler is the greatest story ever written.
So look, I mean, the first when the show first came out, there were parts of it that were tough to sit through. RTD's first series, and I'm thinking of the Slitheen two-parter when my wife looked at me and said, "This is bad kiddies television."
Yeah.
And in that one, the Moffat two-parter was one of the standouts, and it felt more like I was watching the old show.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he started his thing, I mean, the first time I watched Time of Angels, when that came on, I remember having a strong feeling that this was as good as anything that I'd seen in the whole run of the show. Yeah, well, I mean, it was a strong feeling at the time. Haven't watched it too many times since, but I thought it was a cracking story, that one. Not so much the second half of it, but that.
Well,
that
there's a whole
part of it
first part,
I really
second
enjoyed.
part thing going on, isn't there, throughout the Moffat era? Look,
Yeah,
guys,
there's a lot of that going on, I think.
we can't do this justice in a little Richard feedback session. So why don't we do the next podcast about the Moffat era and try and work out if it went wrong and where it went wrong and what the weaknesses were, and then Richard, if you want to be fair and equitable about everything, we can pretend to have liked some of it.
Oh, look, there is parts that are worth praising. Some parts, not a lot, but there is some parts that are worthy of praise.
How does that sound then, Jack?
I think so. That sounds good to me.
That sounds fine to me, and I'll try and find something funny to say and stop